Hello, and welcome to the CAINE Forensics video series. In this video, we will look at the QPhotorec tool for data recovery. PhotoRec is a file data recovery software designed to recover lost files including video, documents, and archives from hard disks, CD-ROMs, and lost pictures from digital camera memory. You can retrieve lost files from common Windows file systems such as FAT, NTFS, and exFAT. It also handles the Mac file system HFS+, and of course, the Linux file systems of ext2, ext3, and ext4. PhotoRec ignores the file system and goes after the underlying data, so it will still work even if the media's file system has been severely damaged or reformatted. QPhotorec is the GUI version of PhotoRec and makes it a lot easier and simpler to use. Let's go ahead and launch QPhotorec from the CAINE menu under Forensics Tools, Analysis. First thing we're going to do is select a source, which can either be a physical device or a raw disk image. So the physical devices will be /dev, SDA, SDB, etc., even the loop devices. In this example, let's go ahead and add a raw disk image that I created earlier. Let's go ahead and go to the location of our raw image, and the raw image could be in a DD format or .raw or .img. Once the source disk is selected, you can select the whole disk or the partition. In this particular case, let's go ahead and select the partition. In this example, the image was of a SD card which had files inadvertently deleted. So we're going to cover deleted files. So the file system is still intact. So let's go ahead and select the partition. So after we select the partition, let's go ahead and select the file system type. In this case, I know my SD card had a FAT file system. So we're going to go ahead and select FAT, NTFS, HFS+, etc. The next thing is we have to select either free or whole. If you select free, QPhotorec will simply look for unallocated files, which are the files that have been deleted by the user. So in this case, that's what we have. Or if you want to select whole, what that is going to do is going to select a scan of the entire card, and it just takes longer. So in this case, let's go ahead and select the free space. Next, you're going to select the destination folder. So let's go ahead and select USB folder. And then finally, you want to go ahead and click on the File Format button. And this is going to allow you to specify what types of file you want to look for. So the current version of QPhotorec contains more than 480 file extensions that it can recover. You can see there are a lot. And if you want to make this a faster process, you can go ahead and hit reset to deselect everything and only select the few that you are interested in. But in this case, we are going to select them all because it's a pretty small image. And if you notice the very first box here, you can also create your own custom signatures to search for. All right, so we already hit OK on that, and then we're going to hit the search button. And so there it goes. So you can see the status bar here on how many sectors it's been reading and how many passes it's doing, the number of files it has found, and here it breaks down into whether they're JPEGs or TIFFs or whatnot. In this first example, we have an SD card where we deleted photos of interest by mistake in the camera, but we want to recover them. This is a pretty common scenario. So when PhotoRec is done, we can see that there are 214 JPEG photos recovered and 57 TIFF images recovered. For the purpose of PhotoRec, the TIFF group includes raw camera files such as the Canon CR2 format, the Nikon NEF format, the Pentax PEF format, the Fuji RAF format, and the Sony SR2 format. They're all grouped under the TIFF category. In this case, I was using a Nikon camera, so all the TIFF images recovered are actually deleted raw images from that camera. And it looks like we also have recovered 2 GZ files and an Apple file. When the recovery is done, we can actually click on the destination link here to see the results. The results of existing file carving tools typically contain a lot of false positive. So an investigator must test out each of the extracted files by opening them in an application that supports that file type to verify whether it's a false positive or not. So basically, you don't want to just report these numbers in your final report and say you have recovered 216 JPEG photos, because that's not necessarily reflective of what's going on. So one thing to note is that the way that PhotoRec works is that it only recovers the data by carving. It does not recover any file names or any metadata for those files, so no dates and timestamps. So here you can see there are all the JPEGs that we have recovered. So there's definitely a ton of pictures. And then we also saw a couple of the NEFs, which are the Nikon raw images from the Nikon camera. One other thing to note, so if you notice here in your home folder for your user, which in our case is CAINE, there is a log file left behind by QPhotorec. If we can take a look at this log file, you see that it actually gives you the date and timestamps when you started this program, the version number of QPhotorec it's actually running. Actually gives you information on each one of the drives that it sees. So here's the info on SDA. It knows about the partition tables and whatnot. And then similarly for all of the other devices. So here is the device of interest that we have. It sees the partitioning table there. And here's all of the recovered files, so you can see. So here's the output path name for the file. And then here are the sectors from where the images were actually carved. So you can see, so for this particular picture, it looks like it was able to carve data from non-contiguous sectors. So it looks like a few of them have non-contiguous sectors that it was able to carve from. All right, let's take a look at a second example. In this second example, what we did was we took a SD card in our Nikon camera and used the camera itself to format that card. So this mimics a lot of cases where you inadvertently formatted a SD card which has pictures. So we're going to try to recover those pictures. So once again, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add the raw image. And for that raw image, we had the DD of that SD card. So this time, we're going to look at the whole disk instead of a partition, because the partition that is back on here is a new partition that we had done. And we don't really know if that matches the old partition. So let's not take a chance. Let's go ahead and hit whole disk for there. In the file system type, once again, we know that it was a FAT file system on the SD card. And then this third item here, we don't have a choice. We already picked the whole entire thing. Let's go ahead and browse the output again. We're going to give it a location. All right, let's go ahead and put it in our home folder. And for file format, once again, I'm going to just go ahead and choose everything because it's going to be pretty fast. And then hit search. And it looks like the results are going to be the same because we actually took the same SD card and we just formatted it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the resulting folder here in the CAINE. And so you can see that those are all the recovered JPEGs and NEFs and other files. And if you notice the names of the files, some of them start with the letter T. Those are basically thumbnails. So those are carved from within a actual JPEG. So if you scan back to the files and you have files that start with the letter F, those are the actual files themselves. And then the NEF is the raw image. So in this case, looks like in my camera, I had the camera save files as both raw image and the JPEG. Let's run another example. I'm going to go ahead and launch QPhotorec. This time, I'm going to pick the image from the 2006 DFRWS Forensics Challenge. In this case, there is no known file system on there. That's why it says unknown. Let's leave it as a FAT file system. I'm going to pick whole disk. That's the only option. I'm going to browse to a location that we can write to. For the file format, we will leave it to run the defaults, as this is a small image and it will run quick. And let's go ahead and hit search. When it's done, we can see that it found 23 files: JPEGs, texts, docs, and zips. Let's look at the output file folder. We see that it has carved out HTML files, JPEG files, Microsoft Doc files, zip containers, so forth. And once again, we can see here by the name of the output file that starts with a letter T that it carved out thumbnails from certain JPEG pictures. Even though PhotoRec currently carves out about 480 file extensions, there are always files that it does not recognize. So with PhotoRec, we can create custom signatures that would help us carve out our specific file types. So my example, I see that QPhotorec does not appear to be able to carve out a GIMP XCF file. So let's go ahead and create a custom carver to find those deleted GIMP XCF files. First, let's take a look to see if the XCF files have a unique header. We are going to use XXD to view the first few bytes of the file. All right, so I'm going to use XXD, and I'm going to point it to my XCF file, and then I'm going to pipe the results to head and only look at the first 3 lines. So as you can see, it looks like there is some kind of a header here that is apparently unique. So it's just simply GIMP XCF. I'm going to leave out the version number just in case we want to find GIMP XCF files that are of a different version number. So let's go ahead and create a signature file. The way we do that is we can just use VI to edit the special file called .photorec.sig. So on the CAINE distro, because the way PhotoRec runs as root, we will actually need to put this in roots folder. All right, so in VI, all we need to do is just add a extension. I'm going to call it XCF, and then a byte offset. So we notice that it basically starts at offset 0. Some other file headers start at a different byte offset. And then next you can just put in, if it's text, whatever the text may be, or if it's in hex, you can actually put in the hex values or a combination thereof. So after we do that, we go ahead and save the file. Now all we got to do is go back out and run QPhotorec again. Okay, and we're going to read in our image that has a deleted XCF file. And I know, because I created it, that that image is using an ext file system, so I'm going to select that. And then from the file system type, I know, once again, I know that I deleted it, so I'm just going to leave it as the free space. I'm going to go ahead and select Browse and select a location to put it. Double check the file format, make sure that the custom signature is selected, and then hit Search. And there it goes, and it found 2 files, and I know that I deleted a JPEG file and my XCF file, so it seems to have recovered both files. Let's double check by clicking on the results destination, and sure enough we see 2 files. Let's take a look at the listing view so we can see the sizes. So the JPEG file is there, and then the XCF file is also there. So one thing that is to note is that my original XCF file was about 4.5 megs in size, and with the Carver, it seems to have carved out a much larger file. But then what I did was I went and took a look at that file, and I actually used the dd commands to actually copy out the exact same number of bytes as the original, and then did a MD5 hash to compare. And so it actually matched the original. So basically what it shows is that with this quick and dirty hack for PhotoRec, it basically just looks for the header, but it doesn't pay attention to the footer of the specific files, and it also doesn't look at anything else. So what the author of the tool recommends is that if you actually want a more robust solution, you contact him, and he can go ahead and take that into consideration and modify PhotoRec itself for footer detection and file content check and file size control, etc. But in any case, we demonstrated that we can create a custom Carver with just a header format, and QPhotorec is able to carve out those files. All right, so that brings us to the end of this video, where we looked at the QPhotorec data recovery tool. We looked at examples of recovering various types of files ranging from photos, HTML docs, Word docs, to zip files. We were also able to recover photos deleted off an SD card from a camera, and also recover files if the SD card was reformatted by the camera. Hope you enjoyed it, and if so, click on the thumbs up icon to like this video. Please hit the subscribe button to get notified when the next video comes out. Also, please leave me messages in the comment section below so I know what you liked and didn't like, or what you may want to see in future videos. See you next time.